So we're here today, this week, with premier music drum instructor Tyler Walton.
Hello.
Tyler's been teaching here several years, and also I play in a lot of bands with him. Tyler's one of my favorite drummers to actually gig with, so it's actually pretty cool having him teach here. I'm going to ask you all the silly interview questions, except for the one where I ask if you were a tree, what kind of drumsticks you'd like to be made into. But the first one is how long have you been playing drums?
Well, I'm 27 now, and I started when I was 10.
Oh.
And it's kind of cliched, but from as early as I can remember, I was always hitting things with sticks, pots and pans. Anytime I could find a tree branch, I would just whack the heck out of everything around me. And so when I became old enough, I formed a neighborhood band on my driveway, and I guess someone had a toy keyboard and I played drums. And then when we moved into an actual home when I was 10 years old, my parents finally just bought me a drum set, and I was just very fortunate to have cool neighbors that didn't mind that I made a bunch of noise all day. And that was it. We got a cheap $300 drum set from the Penny Saver, and I just beat the heck out of that thing for years until I got a better drum set when I became a more advanced player. I just wanted to be a drummer. I don't know. I mean, it just interested me the most, that primal sense of hitting something and making lots of noise. I guess just really appealed to me. So I don't know. I can't trace back the minute I decided I wanted to be a drummer. It just was always there.
Yeah. Cool. What kind of education have you had on the instrument, whether it's private lessons or schooling or anything like that?
Okay. I started taking lessons right away when I got a drum set, about 10 or 11, from a great drummer named Kevin Tullius, who played in the LA Jazz Quartet. And he passed away a few years back, but he was my first drum teacher on the drum set. And right about the same time, I studied note reading and hand technique at Anaheim Band Instruments with Randy Caputo. And I learned how to read music from him. I worked out of the syncopation book with him. Kevin Tullius and I worked mostly just on grooves and concepts behind the drum set. And then when I was 15, I studied with Charlie Waymeyer, who's an instructor at Musicians Institute. And he would drive all the way down to Yorba Linda to teach at the music lab. And he was my first sort of rock and roll drum teacher. And he had a huge influence on me, and I was about 15. So I didn't do any music in high school. I sort of regret that, but I didn't do marching band, I didn't do jazz band. I just played in a bunch of punk rock bands, and in my senior year, I started to play in some top 40 bands, some cover bands for money. So I kind of started gigging professionally, I'd say, about my senior year in high school. And so I thought, I better make up for not having any music education behind me in high school. So I'm going to go to Fullerton College and study jazz and study orchestral music, and that's where I really got serious with chart reading. I studied jazz really heavily for about 2 or 3 years there. I got some of my legit chops together. I studied marimba, timpani, orchestral snare drum, all that stuff. So I had a good foundation behind me from the private teachers that I mentioned, but it was pretty raw, and so Fullerton College really helped me fine-tune a lot of the aspects of my musicianship. And when I graduated Fullerton College, I went out to Musicians Institute in Hollywood because I wanted to be a rock star and play more heavy music. I had the jazz thing behind me, I had the punk rock thing, and so I got out there and I did really well there, and I studied with a great instructor, Tim McIntyre, who changed the way I thought about drumming. And I got to be a teacher's assistant right off the bat. They recognized that I could read music and play a lot of different styles. So as I was a student, I was also working there, and I think that was just as big of a part of my education because I got to play with people at school like Carl Verheyen and Ross Bolton, Scott Henderson once, and so that was huge in my education. Just getting up there and reading charts with these guys on the spot was really a big, kind of an eye-opener, right? And then I graduated and I decided, I really would like to have a formal bachelor's degree behind me. You know, it was kind of scary out there. The economy was just starting to get bad, and I thought, you know, I want a degree. So I moved down to Cal State Fullerton, the Fullerton area, and I am now almost done with my bachelor's of music in orchestral percussion. So I'm doing mostly all of the legit stuff there again, but just to a much higher level. I'm playing in all the orchestras there and doing things like that, as well as in their jazz bands too, to keep my drumming up. So, you know, in a few months I'll have my bachelor's of music in orchestral percussion, and then I'm pretty much set with my education. No more school for a very long time.
Free and clear at this point.
Yeah.
Cool. So. You've had a lot of varied experiences between the formal education. I know you've taken private lessons with guys like Kenny Aronoff and Peter Erskine. If you could give up and coming drum students 3 small pieces of advice, whether it's like technical stuff or preparation or anything like that, what would they be?
Okay, good question. The biggest thing is to be a reliable person. There are so many talented guys out there that just can't get it together, that can't show up on time, that don't show up prepared for gigs and rehearsals. And if you can just do what you have to do, learn the songs inside and out, show up on time everywhere, you know, be a good person to work with, a friendly person, you will get really far with that. Because there are so many guys trying to do this but don't have the attitude, don't have the work ethic, but plenty of talent, but they won't go anywhere with it because they can't get their act together. Another thing would be, for just an overall concept behind the instrument, I think that you need to listen to lots of different music. For me, that didn't really click until I got to Fullerton College, because that's a jazz and a classical program. And so I didn't have a rock band to play with at Fullerton, and I had to listen to a lot of jazz quick. I had a lot of catching up to do. So I bought tons of Blue Note records. I bought a lot of classical recordings, Latin jazz, kind of anything I could get my hands on. And I think that really shaped how I play, because I compiled this huge collection of music, you know, all different kinds, and it's really good for you. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into one type of thing. And another thing is, I would say, be efficient with your practice time. You know, use your time wisely. Don't just sit down and play and enjoy playing and think that, okay, that's fine, you know, I practiced today. You know, really try to find what you feel you're not good at, or what what your weaknesses are, and sit down and work specifically on those things, especially as you get busier. The older we get, the less time we have, life kicks in. So be efficient with your practice time. Just find something that's kind of all-encompassing, you know, an exercise that develops lots of different things at once. I like to go through the Ted Reed syncopation book and try to be creative in how I can interpret the rhythms around the drum set, use a metronome a lot. You know, that's huge when you practice. So yeah, I mean, if I had to say 3, be a reliable person, listen to lots of different music, and just be efficient with your practice time.